Hi friends, Laurelei Black here from Blade Broom Botanica. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to predict or determine the sacrifice that's going to be required for that spell you want to do. So back before I knew how to do this, I would decide that I was going to do a spell, that I had a need, and do some divination about the best way to go about doing the spell, and ask my cards or my stones or my pendulum if there was going to be some kind of sacrifice required, because I knew that that was supposed to be a good thing to do, right? And hope that I got clear enough guidance from my tarot cards or whatever kind of oracle deck I was using, or runes or that kind of thing, or my pendulum, which at least I found the pendulum. I felt like I could narrow it down to see how much of a sacrifice was going to be required. But I will say that, as excellent a reader as I am, and I do feel like I am quite a good reader, I feel like those tools are not necessarily finely tuned to the kind of question that I was asking, right? So I was lucky enough years ago, probably 12 years ago now at this point, to have been in conversation with my now ex-wife, who had such a tool that she was using for this purpose. It was one that was taught to her, but it was not necessarily as finely tuned as what she and I came up with together. So together we developed what is currently in use within the craft tradition that she and I teach. So the craft tradition, of course, I've made mention to it in other videos, is the American folkloric tradition. Links down below. And the tool that I'm talking about is our sacrificial stone bowl. So this is something that anybody can use. You do not have to be part of our tradition to use this. It is just a tool, but it is basically just a bowl or a lipped dish that has symbols painted on it. Now, the premise behind this is that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So there is an ebb and flow to magic in the world. And if you push, there's a pull effect on the opposite side. So sometimes, though, when you want to do magic, you ask the question, what is the sacrifice going to be? And you get a response from the bowl that, hey, this time there's not one. And that's okay too, right? Because sometimes the magic that you're wanting to do is something that was maybe already going to be happening, or you're the hand that's making that thing go, or, you don't necessarily know what the circumstances are. You just know that for whatever reason, this time there's not a sacrifice required. We'll get into what that looks like when we do the reading, but the concept here is that magic is metaphysical. It is not necessarily mystical, right? Like it's not operating on a system with no rules. It's operating perhaps on a system with rules we just don't necessarily understand. So until we understand those rules better, we just need to try to learn what the rules are as well as we can, or at least ask the right questions in a way where we can figure them out. So this tool I have found has been super effective, and I would love to share it with you so that you can use it for your magic. So I'm going to show you my big fancy stone bowl. Trying to get the glare off of it. Here, I'll turn it this way. I don't know. I'm turning it. Everything's backwards and upside down on my camera screen. So this is the inside surface of the bowl. This is like the big bowl, right? So, and then this is the back of the bowl. But you can't see that it actually has symbols. It has some stuff that was painted onto the bottom of the bowl, but it has a piece of felt that was placed over it so that it doesn't scratch up the table. On the back, it actually says There is no magic without sacrifice. And then I've just put a couple of symbols that are meaningful to me. One of them is the symbol for the stone bowl itself. And then I put this piece of velvet, or felt. On other bowls I've put velvet, just depending on what I had on hand, but this one got felt because it's so large. So on the inside of the bowl, and I'll show you actually where I've done it on a not nearly as fancy bowl. So this is just a terracotta pot, clay dish that you can buy for super cheap. This does not have to be an expensive project that you do for yourself, right? Same thing, just a felt back, and then some black enamel paint on the inside with paint pens. So in order to get the colors to be nice and bright, if you do this for yourself, you want to use a white paint first, and then to get the circles nice and round and of about that size, a quarter works really well. So that's the DIY on this. The circles actually represent, and you'll notice we've got, hearkening back to some long-running mystic symbols. We've got the equal armed cross inside the circle, which is, oh gosh, represents so many things and harkens back to so many things, but it is the symbol for earth. This is, in our tradition, this is placed in the quarter that represents earth, which is the south for us, because it's under your feet, which is where the earth is, under your feet. And so we've got the symbol for the glass castle, which is the lantern here, the symbol for the stone castle, the stone bowl here. So the symbol for the stone bowl is the stone bowl here. The symbol for the bloody cup, the bloody chalice, is here. And then the symbol for the glass orb, the glass castle, is there. And the bloody cup is in the Castle Perilous. If you know your Grail lore, this makes a lot of sense. If you don't know your Grail lore, this still works for you. You don't necessarily have to know. And then the symbol here that's in the middle is the spiral castle, the Castle Kershi, the revolving castle. There in the middle, it's the silver wheel. So we'll go into what all of this, how this translates into a reading here in just a moment. So, and then how you're going to read with these is that you're going to toss 3 stones, a black stone, red stone, and white stone. If you're following this channel, by the way, if you've watched more than one video, you're going to notice these 3 colors popping up over and over and over again: red, black, and white. They're the 3 sacred colors, right? So if you're familiar with a lot of Celtic lore, or if you're familiar with some other mythologies, you're going to see that these 3 colors just keep popping up over and over and over again: red, black, and white. That is not by accident. So 3 stones, a red jasper in this case, black onyx, and a white tourmaline. White tourmaline. A white howlite. And we're gonna toss those in. So I'm gonna adjust my camera angle. Okay, so the way you read in the bowl is that each of these circles or castles represent the type of sacrifice. So the castle of revelry is the place where all revelry and joy exists. So if the sacrifice indicates that you're going to have to sacrifice something from here, then what you're going to be sacrificing is a sacrifice of abstinence. So you're going to be giving up something that you enjoy. The castle of glass is a place of thought and austerity. So if you have to make a sacrifice that's related to this idea, then you're going to be making a sacrifice of discomfort. So that might be a sacrifice of something like laying on the floor for a period of time instead of laying in your bed, or wearing an article of clothing that you find uncomfortable, or something along that nature. The castle of stone is all about wealth and abundance and material goods. So if you need to make a sacrifice that's related to this concept, then you're going to be making a monetary or physical sacrifice that's related to wealth. So you might be making a donation to a charity, or you'd be giving away money or giving away physical goods. So giving away an item that you wouldn't normally be donating because you're actually still quite attached to it, something along those lines. The Castle Perilous is the castle that's related to blood and pain. So if you have to make a sacrifice in this area, those are exactly the things that you would be making a sacrifice of, is either blood or actual pain. Yours, of course. It's not actually a sacrifice if you're sacrificing somebody else's blood or pain. So you'd be giving up some of your blood or pain. Now, if the sacrifice lands here on the spiral castle, then that means no sacrifice required. No sacrifice. So, but the way the sacrifice is determined is with these stones. So our marker stone is the red stone. This is actually the indicator stone. And then who the sacrifice is made to and how big the sacrifice is determined by the black and white stone. So the white stone represents the white goddess, the black stone represents the black goddess. So if the red stone lands closer to the white stone, then the sacrifice is being made to the white goddess. If it lands closer to the black stone, then the black goddess. And then if the black and white stones are really close together, the sacrifice is small. If they're really far apart, then the sacrifice is big. So the way this would work is, and I'll just place them for a second. If the stones are placed like this, and the red stone's really close to the white stone, but the white stone's on the spiral castle, no sacrifice. But if it's like this, and it's in Castle Perilous, then you're going to make a sacrifice of blood or pain to the white goddess, and the sacrifice is going to be, I would say, moderate. It's not these two stones aren't very far apart. The black and white goddess stones aren't very far apart, but they're also not super close together. So one that you'd need to feel a bit, but not too bad. If, however, the stones are like this, then the sacrifice is going to be to the black goddess. But this time the sacrifice is going to be in the castle of glass, which means that it's going to be one of discomfort. So be prepared to be a little uneasy for a time. You got to figure out what that looks like for you. What makes you uncomfortable is different than what makes me uncomfortable, and I can post some suggestions for you. In terms of what it means to have those sacrifices be to either the black goddess or the white goddess, you can think of them the flavor, I guess. It's really kind of about the flavor. These are really just two faces of the witch mother. So it's the witch's goddess in her aspects as the weaver, the dark mother, the destroyer, the warrior, the elder, the grandmother, the goddess of death, the Morrigan, Kali, Kayak, or the witch goddess in her aspects as the queen of Elfheim, the Lady of Enchantment and Illusion and Sacrifice and Life and Fecundity, Brigantia, Melusine, Aphrodite. They both have their mysteries and they both have their terrifying aspects. They both have their love and they both have their price. Neither one of them is going to take it particularly easy on you if they have gone very far apart. And neither one of them is going to be particularly brutal if they have come very close together. They are two sides of a coin, darkness and the light, the shadow and the light, and the light and the darkness. So you get to know the flavors as you get to know them, right? This is an exceptionally useful tool. Sometimes I think that when people are just getting started with it, they think it's more complicated than it actually is. So I want to give you a couple of funny examples of things that you can use this for. One is definitely that you can use this to determine whether or not you want to do the spell, right? Because that's one of the things that we should be using our divinations for. Do you even want to do this work? Because just because you've decided that you have a need doesn't mean that you're going to go through with it, especially when the reading has shown that the price that you're going to have to pay is off the charts. I have had a stone jump out of the bowl so that the price was so big to do that work that it was like, you can't pay it. It's so big, you cannot pay it. I can't do that thing. It's too much. But maybe you could, right? If it defines a parameter for you, you can say, yeah, I can do that. I can give that thing up, or I can give that thing away. I can hurt enough, I can suffer enough in order to accomplish this goal. It is that important to me. Or go the opposite direction and say, hell no, nope, I would rather live with the demon I know. I'd rather have the demon I know than go down this other path and do this other thing, because it's just not worth it. So that is one way that we can use this tool, is to look and to say, is going in this direction really worth it for me? Because sometimes it just isn't. Sometimes that sacrifice just isn't worth it. And sometimes it's giving us that warning. Sometimes when it jumps the bowl or it does something like that, it's warning us that, hey, you know what, maybe there's something even more that you're just not seeing. It's that bad. It's that bad. There's more here than can even be contained within this message. So yeah, it's a very, very effective tool. I highly recommend it. So again, I hope that this video is useful for you, and follow, like, comment, share, do all the things. Check out the links down below. I hope to be hearing from you, and I'll see you next Monday with another video at noon. Bye-bye.